have to go and do it. Well, just maybe, no. Yeah, exit stage right. I guess that's the quick getaway, right? Okay. Anyways, good morning. Thank you all for being here. And I just, it's the end of the session. And I want to say a few words. So this legislature's fall sitting was cut in half. And although we've seen a much welcome change in tone, the song remains the same. So here are 6 things we've learned in this 6-week session. Number 1, the Auditor General and the FAO both confirmed that the provincial deficit was never $15 billion. The government continues to use this number, this phony number, as a context for deep cuts to services that families depend on. And Doug Ford and his ministers continue to use this number to this day, even though they know it's not right. Number 2, the government has no real plan for climate change. The Auditor General confirmed that Doug Ford's plan is not based on sound evidence, and they're doing things like double counting. And they are nowhere near meeting their meager emissions targets. Number 3, there's a culture of climate change denial in this government. It took the Minister of Energy 3 days to say that he believes that climate change is real. And that put him into a special category of climate change deniers, those who say they believe it's real, but it's not really that bad. Number 4, the government has no plan for education. The government has messed up negotiations with teachers. After nearly 6 months of negotiations, the government abruptly changed its negotiating team and then called for mediation. And they've moved the target on class sizes and online learning, and the minister continues to break the trust of the table by fudging numbers and bargaining through social media. Number 5, the government is looking to cut $500 million for services for people with developmental disabilities and their families. The government secretly tendered a $1 million contract to an outside firm to find $500 million in savings in the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services. Individuals with developmental disabilities and their families and the people who help them are not being consulted. Number 6, the government has $10 billion of unannounced tax cuts, and that is in addition to $6 billion already announced. That's $16 billion over 4 years. And remember, we're still in deficit. That's $4 billion a year that's coming directly from services that families depend on, like our schools, our hospitals, a plan for climate change. Ontarians deserve a government with a plan to invest in those things that their families need to thrive. This fall session was cut short because Doug Ford wanted to stay out of the public eye during the federal election. That's not right. We should have been here. I'm looking forward to the next session beginning in February. We've secured greater participation of independents in this legislature, and that will further strengthen our party's ability to stand up to Doug Ford's cuts and misplaced priorities. And I'll take any questions that you have.
So the government wanted to change the tone with this when the House came back at the end of October. What changes did you?
There is a welcome change in tone. I don't think the priorities have changed. If you look at the government is still fighting a plan for climate change when they don't have one of their own. They don't have a plan for education, and they're not going to get one anytime soon. That's why they're having problems at the table. Now, it's more civil in the House. There's no question about that. And we've worked with the government where we could, so I welcome that. We've done some things so that we can participate in a more fulsome way that is sort of commensurate with 1.1 million people voting for our party and actually 1.5 million for all the independents. We look like we have some cooperation on a defibrillator bill, something we all agree on. That's really good. So I don't want to short sell that. But the fundamentals, the basic things that are really, really important to Ontario families, the government really hasn't changed course. They may have rolled back a little bit on some things. We're not going to do the $17 billion in cuts in legal aid next year, but they cut $130 billion this year. There's still a big problem. It's good to be more civil, but the things that, and that's important here, but Ontarians don't worry about that. What they worry about is is my son or daughter going to get the support they need in school? If my mom needs home care, is she going to get it? That's what they worry about. And that's the stuff that we're here to ensure that the government delivers on, and they're not.
The fact that you talked about more openness on their
Mm-hmm.
part or willingness to work with you guys, do you see that as, the door being open to maybe advance your own priorities and maybe push them?
Yeah, there is an opportunity to do that. There's no question about that. Greater participation in debate and question period will allow for those ideas to come out in a more fulsome way. I as I said, we've got some cooperation on defibrillators. It's not a big thing. It's a really important thing if you need one. So there are those opportunities, but the fundamental principles that underlie this same stuff's still going on, and so. I don't want to be. I don't think it would be unreasonably totally negative, but I think we have to be realistic about the fact that we still have a problem in schools. There's still no plan for climate change. We still don't have a plan for autism. Families are still waiting. So that's. I think that's. If I wanted to frame it as that, it's like, yeah, there's some things that are better, but there's a whole bunch of things that are way more important to people at home that the government needs to change course on.
2020. What's your party going to look like? Right now, it's the party of five. You're going to have a leadership race in 3.5 months. What's your party going to look like once that leadership race is done?
Well, I think it will look. We'll have a new leader, which will be something very new. It will look the same. There'll be. We'll still have relatively maybe a few more members in the legislature. We should have the by-elections. I'm confident that we have got two great candidates. We're the kind of candidates we have in Ottawa. We've got a city councillor and a school board chair. Those are the kind of things that governments usually get as their candidates in a by-election, right? These are people who are eager to join their party. The party is strong in terms of the people. Our membership numbers will be coming out. I'm pleased with where they're at. I think in the next couple of weeks, those numbers will come out. We've made slow and steady progress to where we have to go. And I think it's just going to be more of the same. It's going to be a new leader, some more hands. And we still have a mountain that we've got to climb up. We've been climbing up. We've never fallen back, I think, since June 18th. And we still have a lot of work ahead of us. So it's kind of an all hands on deck thing. And we're going to continue to do what we've been doing in the last couple of years.
What was your main priority or objective as you kind of took the party from one of its worst defeats in party history to, this leadership election? How did you want to kind of navigate?
Well, I think in a technical sense, it was really about. The first most important thing was get our financial house in order. So look at our expenses, look at our revenues, and stabilize ourselves and work on paying down our debt. And we've been doing that. And in a way that we've made a pragmatic plan, and that's worked. That's the most important thing that we all did together. And for me, it was keep bringing people together. Like as everybody, as they described it, look, the family's run into some challenges. Everybody's got to come home. We got to work together to continue to build up our party, and we've done that. We had a convention where we had a contentious issue about how we were going to vote for the next leader. It was a vote that, was close, but we didn't all, go into different groups after that. We all still come together, and our success has been we have a great brand. People know that we're builders, and we have great people. And those people keep coming back. And they do small things and big things. Most of them aren't paid. We had 1,000 people at an AGM, and they weren't staff. So that's our strength. That's why we've been successful. It's not in any particular initiative of one individual like myself. It's that people wanted to do something. They wanted to see change. They wanted to be part of rebuilding. And they were hungry for it. And they still are.
So some of the leadership contenders are obviously not sitting MPPs. Two of them are, three of them are not. How quickly do you or do you, or does the party think that they need to seek a seat inside the legislature if somebody who's not a sitting MPP gets a seat?
I think the thing is that's up to the leader, because they'll choose the course that they want to take, and they'll make that decision, because there's different schools of thought on that, right? Some people say get in, some people say, most of your work is outside. And the reality is, in the political, in the election, in kind of election readiness and being ready for elections, your work's really outside. But that's not to say don't commit. You just got to create a balance, right? So, that will be up. That'll be up to them, the leader, how they want to handle it, where they like to run, when they like to run. The way I look at it is, we'll have a new leader. It'll be it's another big milestone for us, and that leader is going to help chart the direction. And they're another really important set of hands. It's just adding to the team that's already there. They'll bring some more people. So this whole exercise will continue to be about gathering more and more people. And so that was a long way of answering. The leader will have to make that decision themselves.
How difficult is your job being the interim leader? You're kind of in between things right now. Like you've been through that major defeat in the last election. You're waiting for a new leader. How difficult has it been to be the interim leader?
To be straight, the first 6 months were, I'm not a person who gets anxious or suffers anxiety. The first 6 months were there was just a lot going on here. We had to get our financial house in order. There was a lot of stuff we had to change really quickly. And so that was, I wouldn't say it was hard, but it was just like not as much fun. Now it's, people keep coming back. And it's got, I really enjoy doing it. I really enjoy having the opportunity to help keep bringing people together. So it hasn't been hard. And if I can be a bit cheeky, the government's made it really easy sometimes, right? Because the last year was, and I don't take any solace in saying this, so I really shouldn't be cheeky about it, but they did a lot of damage in the first year. It was hard to keep up with. That was the biggest challenge. Their priorities are totally out of whack. We had a budget that was all about alcohol, right? And the toughest thing was, what do we focus on? There were so many things happening that weren't good. What do we focus on? And I've had the help of a lot of great people inside this place, outside this place. And so the success that we've had is largely due to just a team of people all contributing things, some very small, some really big. Jerry Phillips, you've probably seen Jerry around here a few times. Jerry's here once a week, just comes to help.
Are you going to miss it, being interim leader?
I don't know. March 7th is like the edge of the world. Like, what's going to happen after March 7th? I don't know what's going to happen. I'll miss you guys. I probably won't be doing this. I know, yeah. Well, I'll be running away. I'll be scooting out the door, just because I can get away. No, it'll change, but things change. And, as I said, it's just going to be more hands on deck. Like, there's enough work to go around, trust me. So whatever work that the next leader wants me to undertake, I'll undertake that. And then, but I still have 3 weeks left, so I'm not going to do the farewell tour just yet. But it's been an honor and a privilege, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I've just learned a lot by having to do this on a regular basis and having, to be prepared.
It's not an easy job, is it? Can you describe what it is actually like to take on this role for any leader, to lead a party?
You have a lot of responsibility, and there's what happens in here, and you've got your caucus, and they're really important. You want to keep everybody together, but then there's a whole bunch of people in the party, and you got to take care of them. You got to make sure that they're, I guess, that I always like to say, fed, watered, and acknowledged, which are that they get what they need. And sometimes what happens, and it happens in every political party, is the longer you're around or the more centralized things get, what can happen is you say to the party, well, we got this, don't worry. but they want to be deeply involved in it. So that's kind of the responsibility of making sure that happens. Is it's a big responsibility. It's not onerous, or I would say difficult, or it's challenging. And you always have to keep it in your head, right? You got to keep your connect. It's all about keeping connected to people, and it's everybody. So it's easy to connect with 6 people in the caucus here, right? Or people on an executive. But what about those? What about the tens of thousands of people that are members, and they have a stake in it, right? And that's a challenge of every party leader. You need to do that, and it's hard because there are so many competing priorities. I mean, it's different for us now because our priorities are really to bring people together, right? They should always be that way. We need to do that because we need to build up again, and it's a good thing. I know it was a real challenge, and defeat was difficult, but it's a lot of good things that happened. Really good things. Really good people. People who just, I haven't been around a while, they come back. I want to help. The biggest problem in July of 2018, apart from trying to figure out the finances, how we were going to give everybody who said they wanted to help something to do. That's really literally it was. And that's why we had a provincial council. And that's why 800 people showed up there. Because what we said was, okay, come to provincial council. We need you to be there. We have to do this thing. So that's actually one of the challenges in the job, which is somebody says, I want to help. And you only have so much bandwidth, right, when you have 7 members. And how many staff? 6, 7 staff? They're great staff. I was joking. Every morning I pray for Grace, and she's here when I arrive in the office. And this morning, I met Hope on the plane. So it's just like the first 2 people I saw this morning were Hope and Grace.
Where does the party's debt actually stand at now? And you guys have been focusing on paying it off.
Yeah, we're gonna do our report I'll wait till our treasurer's done, but we've been working at that. And
ballpark figures, though?
No, I just know we have a plan.
How difficult was to lose Nathalie Desrosiers and Marie-France Lalonde? Because that's another hit.
Yeah. Like I said, first number one, I'm confident that we have 2 great candidates, and that we can be successful in both those ridings. Both of them were they're just great members. Both Natalie and Marie-France had a lot of experience. Although mon français n'est pas parfait, et j'essaie. It was really good to have them here. Both really smart, passionate Franco-Ontarians. And I miss them both on a personal level, working with them, I have to say that. And but they're just not here. So I've seen Marie-France twice in the last week at events. She's still out with us. Natalie is still helping in kind of quiet ways and giving me advice. And I reintroduced her both of their private members bill because I thought it was important to keep that going. It's important to our party. They're part of the motivation behind, also myself as well too. So we translate way more than we ever have as a party, even when we had millions of dollars, because we made it a priority, and because we have a whole bunch of people who help us, and some technology that's made it a little bit easier. And so we have a rule now, which is, if it's not translated, don't send it out. That's the rule. And every once in a while we fall down and people have to be reminded, but not very often. And so that's a long answer for, I miss them, but their impact is, has been felt, and they're still around.
John, can I just ask about today, that another one-day walkout? You had said that the government has been fudging their numbers when it comes to.
Yeah, well, do
you have a couple of examples in mind?
Well, it was just like it's going to cost $7 billion, right? But when you do the math, you go like, it doesn't add up. So, I'll give you a really good example. And this is a few weeks ago. So the Minister of Education said we've doubled the money for mental health in schools. It's $40 million now, as compared to the 2017-2018 budget. That's 2 fiscal years ago. In the 2018 budget, they didn't double it. They added a few million. They exaggerated the number intentionally. Going back 2 fiscal, as a person in the media, if you said they doubled the funding, you think, well, we've doubled it from what we spent last year. No, because so it's that kind of exaggeration, right? Blowing up the number. It's the $15 billion deficit. It's a pathology with this government. The reality is they're not going to get a deal with the teachers. They're not going to get peace in education if they continue to do that, because that's just another piece that breaks trust, right? The people at the table go like, you're changing your negotiation team. I don't know what your plan is. And, you're trying to vilify us in social media, and then you're firing out these numbers that aren't accurate. And you're trying to sway public opinion. And that's fair. But you're not going to get a deal that way. It's not going to happen. And, the government will probably end up, I know I'm sort of going way off track here, but like Bill 124. That won't be constitutional. That's what'll happen. They're going to use that, if they use that 1% figure to bargain on, and somebody takes that to court, I've seen it. It's happened. Happened to us. Right? Let's be straight. And so, the government needs to take a more mature approach to teacher negotiations, and I'll leave it at that.
John, one thing that's missing is context in that $7 billion figure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea what the last teacher contract
No.
like, how out of whack is that? First of all, they wouldn't get all their demands, so it is inflated just from that standpoint.
And
but
is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? And so I'll go back and sort of drill down further in those numbers. But we've heard a bunch of numbers: 2 billion, 3 billion, like they bounce around. And so the government is intentionally inflating the size of the deficit, trying to make their investment in mental health look better. It's not like they're going to do anything different right now, right? That's just their pathology. Or that's just their way of doing business. That's better than pathology. That sounds kind of clinical.
Maybe just a last question. The
Sure.
Ombudsman still hasn't found or announced who's going to lead his unit for the French services to replace the French service commissioner. It's been a few months now that we know that François Boileau no longer holds that position. What does it tell you, the fact that we still have no one to lead that unit?
C'est une mauvaise décision le gouvernement de Doug Ford. Ce n'est pas nécessaire et les droits de franco-ontariens n'est pas important de ce gouvernement.
Ça vient du bureau de l'Ombudsman. This is the Ombudsman
Oui, non,
office
c'est...
that needs to find the new leader for his
Oui,
unit.
ce n'est pas nécessaire pour l'Ombudsman à chercher une nouvelle personne. C'est une personne maintenant. Et, c'est une année depuis les décisions. Trop long. Ce n'est pas bon. Et je crois l'Ombudsman c'est les besoins de la communauté franco-ontarienne. Il n'a pas l'utile de adresser cet besoin.
Merci.
Merci. Thank you.